Okay, hello everybody. This is Ed from the Morning Goals. I hope you guys are all doing well on this fantastic Thursday morning. Good morning, Cody. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, I'm super excited about today because I have a marketing background and marketing is my bread and butter. And so today, everybody who is listening on Clubhouse, we have a few listeners. We stream this and save these videos to our YouTube page and to our Facebook page. So that way you guys can follow up afterwards. I'm going to keep looking down to see if anybody else joins us on Clubhouse. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, and then I'll kind of repeat it so that we can capture it in the video. But Cody, a little bit about myself and my marketing skills was that I started actually my business career in finance marketing. And I was marketing hedge funds and private equity groups. And so that my job was to do the pitch, create the marketing plan and marketing collateral, and also then go out and tell the story of the product that we were selling. And so that's how I actually started my career. So I have a passion for marketing. Now, for people who are listening either on Clubhouse or Facebook or YouTube or afterwards on our podcast, marketing intro, obviously this you already, all of us are marketing right now. If you're watching this, you're probably running a business, or you're probably had the big word at the beginning of the pandemic was that everybody had to pivot. And I started getting tired of that word, pivot. You have to pivot. If you're a flower shop, you need to pivot. If you're a language school, you need to pivot. If you're a baker, you need to pivot. And so pivot was the word. And so all of us have gotten an education in marketing and in digital marketing. And this last year, we were forced to do it. We had to do it. And I think we've come a long way. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing with intention as your intro to marketing. So we understand, everybody out there, you're marketing your products. If you're watching this, you're using social media, you have a website, you have Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. Then you probably have traditional forms of marketing, which is like advertisements and newspaper ads and commercials. And on an ongoing basis, it sounds overwhelming as I say this, all the things that you could be doing for your business or for your product, right? And so today I want to talk a little bit about doing these things with intention. So first off, your website. It's 2021. Every company, every project needs to have a website that is effective, that has a call to action, it has contact information, that describes your product. And so there are a lot of things that you should be doing on your website, right? And so what I tell people, that back to the intention. So your website does two things. One is it gives people information about yourself, your business, and your product. But two, it could also be a point of sale. Okay. So a lot of people think they're going to make sales on Facebook or on Instagram or things like that. But actually, for example, for the morning goals, that's not my point of sale. My point of sale is my website. So if somebody watches me on YouTube, watches me on Facebook, or watches me on Instagram, my goal is to divert them to the website. And if I can get them and convert them from a follower or a viewer on the socials, and I can get them to my website, themorninggoals.com, then I'm more likely to make a sale. So that's what I want. That is my strategy. Some people, their strategy is actually, their point of sale is actually on the social medias, and that's actually where they hit the purchase button, the pay button, etc. Right? So number one is your website. Make sure you're on it. People like personal stories. Make sure it's very clear and transparent what you're offering and how much you're charging. I cannot stand, it's one of my pet peeves, and I will not give you my business if I don't understand the costs associated with either your service or your product, right? So if you believe that you cost $3,000 and that's your value, then put it on there. And if you're not willing to do that, chances are you're probably not worth that much, and I should be spending my money on you. So know your worth and put that and be transparent. And then also make sure that it is phone readable. A lot of times we focus on our computers, but actually more and more people are using their phones to visit websites. And you have to make sure you sort of take that next step into making sure that it can be read on your phone. So I would say website number one as part of your marketing strategy. The second part is make sure you are Googleable. Can people Google you? So I came across a company recently, and when I searched it, a lot of other things came up, right? So Coddy is the founder of Unearthing Fernway. And when you Google Unearthing Fernway, you aren't going to find many other people unearthing Fernways. The morning goals, that may or may not be Googleable. But if you put it together and you put some quotation marks around it, you'll probably be able to find it. But also that, so you're Googleable. We talk about SEO, right? And so if you don't know what SEO means or how to do it, hire somebody. It is important because it helps you get found on the socials. So number one is website. Number two, make sure you're Googleable. And then number three, then I'll talk a little bit more about the power of socials, but also make sure you're on as many social media platforms as possible. Why? One, that helps you become searchable. Two, that provides you free marketing to get clients and to make sure that you're able to find clients in different ways. And so maybe you can get a national audience or an international audience for your product or service by using the social media, right? So I'll give you my example at the Morning Goals. I'm located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My natural geographic location usually is my limitation to my market. But when I start talking about the socials and using the socials, I have clients in Canada, I have clients on the West Coast, I have clients in Georgia and Texas, and I found most of them through the socials. Okay. And so, but don't waste your time on the socials if you don't have a plan. A lot of people think that they're quote unquote marketing or working by just posting on the socials. So this is back what I said at the beginning, is that all of us need to market with intention. So for example, when I post something on the socials, my goal is several steps. One, for the Morning Goals, it's giving people free things that they could use for themselves, right? So free thing, people like freebies. Number two, it's information about myself so that people understand my qualifications, my experience, my philosophy, right? How I operate and work with people. I want them to know that from my socials. And then the third thing is to share things that I find interesting, right? So this is sort of a psychological view of, or a philosophical view of who is Ed Rocha from the Morning Goals and why is he doing this, right? So all of that information is out there. And then, and one other thing is then there's a call to action. Sometimes we get so excited because I saw something yesterday that said, don't worry about the number of likes you have or your post has. Think about the impact it has. And I recently talked to a brand manager and a advertiser, social media advertiser, who else I'm thinking about hiring. And when I told her, I was like, look, I don't need 10,000 not good followers. I need 50 really great followers that I can create a relationship with and then make that conversion, right? So that's the intention of why do you need all those likes? Chances are you probably don't. You probably need like less likes and more quality of likes to form that relationship. So intro to marketing, websites are important still to this day. Make sure the phone it's phone appropriate. Number two, make sure you're Googleable and figure out ways to make sure that you pop up on different searches. And then third, if you're using the social medias, make sure you're marketing with intention. Lastly, I want to talk about ad buys, and then I'll turn it over. I see a hand, Delaney. I see your hand raised. I'm going to bring you onto the stage in a second on Clubhouse, if you're still there. And then Cody is going to ask me a few questions. But the last thing is ads, paid ads. So I have mixed feelings about paid ads. So if you have the budget, to do it, do it. Somebody once told me, if you're spending $100 a month on paid advertisements, don't do it. It's a waste of money. Divert your $100 to print flyers and hang around the neighborhood. If you have $1,000 or higher to do paid ads, they're much more effective, right? And then also, what's the intention of the paid ad? Is the paid ad just to get more views, more followers, more likes, more people to your website? Or is it actually to increase sales, right? And there's a conversion between I spent $100 and how much am I getting from that $100 of paid services, things that I'm selling to the client, right? Whether it's paid services or products. So having said that, I have mixed feelings on paid advertisements. I've had mixed results. I've been doing this for about 10 years of Facebook ads and Instagram ads and stuff like that. And so now I only use it to help with my number 2, which was be Googleable. So I don't necessarily worry about the conversion from $100 to $1,000 of services and things that I'm selling. I use ads as a way for people to find me in different ways, right? To make sure that I sort of expand my reach if somebody is searching different things. Ad managers might say something completely different, and that's okay. But that's sort of based on my experience running a small business and versus a startup, and it's been the same experience same experience. So website, Googleable, social media with intention, buying ads, and then the last thing is your brand. So you know your customers. So anybody who's watching this after we record it, you already know your customers. I'm not going to tell you that. If you don't know your customers, then you probably shouldn't be in business. And so you probably already know what they want, what they like, what they don't like. And so that marketing part of it of your product is your brand, right? So in both I'm currently running 3 different businesses, and it's not Edward Rocha LLC. Okay. What it is the Morning Goals as a brand, Rolla Languages as a brand, and Blue Rock International as a brand. And all of them have their colors. All of them have their feeling. We're black and white here at the Morning Goals on purpose, because I want my philosophy on coaching and consulting is that life should be simple and you should move on with your life. Cody and I are both wearing gray shirts, and that's intentional and on purpose. Last week we were wearing black shirts. You put on a shirt and you go and you reduce micro stresses, right? Micro stresses. So know your client, and then everything, and then know your brand. So your brand should be a part of your culture at your workplace. My other company, Rolla Languages, we are your local, neighborhood, human-sized basement language school. And we're not corporate. If you want to go to corporate language classes, you go somewhere else. That is not what we do. That is not our philosophy, and is evident in our brand. It's evident in our logo. It's evident in our culture. It's evident in our space. And then when there's also a problem, it's also evident in how we deal with that problem. So you don't like my language class, or you're angry, I'm going to give you your money first without asking questions. And then I'm going to say, how can I make it better? Other people do it slightly different, but it's all inherent in our brand. And then the 6th thing that I would say from a marketing perspective is have a plan, right? So we can tell Cody is a very analytical, deep diving social media analyst / guru. So we can tell when you're excited about your business and when you're not excited about your business. When you're excited about your business and when you're not excited about your business, right, Cody? You can tell that all based on
100%.
And it's obvious, right? And so we see this with small businesses, we see this with solopreneurs, we see this with startups, we see this from all kinds of industries. And I would say that your plan allows you to be consistent in your marketing strategies. Post once a day, but if you start it once a day and you're training your audience to look at your stuff once a day, just keep it once a day. If you post once a week, which is okay, we post a podcast once a week. We've only missed our deadline in 22 weeks one time, and we had to post on Thursday due to technical difficulties. But our audience now then asks when they don't see a podcast on Tuesday, hey, where's the podcast? Right? So we're training that audience, and that's part of our marketing strategy. And so be consistent, but then have a plan. And your plan is social media, it's traditional marketing, it's community networking, and it's also a budget on how much you can afford on a regular basis. Okay. So with that, Delaney, I think I'm going to bring you on. Let's see. I saw your hand up. I don't know if you were just waving. Hi, Delaney. How are you? I'm doing well. Delaney, do you have a question for me and Cody? Yeah. Yeah. Right. I love that. It's a fantastic question. So I'm going to repeat part of the question just in case it didn't capture in our streaming. But Delaney is a personal baker, and her question is, how can she be transparent about her price, but also share the value that she has or the value that she's bringing and to the customer, right? So if she's charging $40 an hour, how can she effectively say that, own it, tell people that, and then not be questioned about it. So Delaney, I would say that 99%, and actually posted this on Facebook last night because I'm being interviewed for a small business podcast in Australia tonight. 99% of small businesses, and I guarantee it, and I have not done any studies, undervalue themselves and their services and their products probably the first 5 years of their business. Some of them keep doing it over and over and over again. So I would say, Delaney, that to your example of $40 an hour working as a private chef or a private baker, you're probably are starting at an undervalued spot already, right? So I would say take that and double it. And it's easier to give people discounts than to increase prices. So everybody out there who's listening to the value that your value proposition of your service or your product, there is a market for somebody at $40 an hour. There's a market at $100 an hour. There's a market at $200 an hour, right? So if you're starting off, you're probably undervaluing yourself. Number one, so increase the price and let them talk you down to that 40, right? 40 is your minimum, right? So you're starting at 80. Now you're letting them willing to talk you down to 40, right? Hopefully it doesn't get that, to do that. The second part about it is I'm getting stressed thinking about this, Delaney, is that it's okay to turn away clients who don't want to pay you. So as a small business owner, I did this with my first business. I wanted to help everybody and not turn anybody away. And my prices went from $10 an hour to $100 an hour and everything in between. The problem is that $10 an hour person and the $100 an hour person probably take the same amount of work. And chances are that $10 an hour person might actually take more work than the $100 an hour person, right? Because that's that value proposition and the expectation and things like that. So I strongly say increase your price, make it higher, like way higher than you think, number one. And number two, and again, as a small business owner, I get it. Be willing to say, I'm sorry, I can't do it for that price. Maybe you should find somebody else and do it in a nice way, right? But that is something that we struggle with all the time. I posted something similar last night, and I had a photographer. I had a children's book author. I had a graphic designer. My other business is language training, a Spanish teacher. You're a baker, and it's a common thing to undervalue yourself And the fear is that you're going to turn away customers that you quote unquote need, right? Because you need to bring in money, you need to pay the bills, you're now investing in the business, and you need to see revenue and income, right? And so I strongly think that it's important for you to process that value, overshoot, and chances are you'll probably be surprised that people are willing to pay you. Cody, let's turn it over to you. What questions do you have?
Yeah, so my first question, kind of listening to your list, it seems like a lot of those marketing strategies are technology based.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend to people listening who might not be so tech savvy, or might even be like social media adverse and don't have that presence? Are they doomed in the 21st century, or?
So that's a great question. I think it's a necessary evil, to be very honest. More and more people, especially as we get older, my generation, if we can't find you on Google, we think something's suspicious of your company. That's an honest truth. And what I would say is that there are cheap ways to, like, if you don't want a personal profile, you don't have to have a personal profile. You don't have to have your dog and your cat in your house on your social media. You can have one just for your business. Keep it professional. Some people have different profiles for their business versus their personal, and that's okay. But if you're, if you're adverse to social media, I say this all the time. The most intriguing and interesting conversations that I've learned, the biggest value on social media was taking my 15, 18, and 23-year-old nieces and nephews out to dinner and having them show me how to do Instagram. All right. So worst case scenario, from a marketing perspective, ask younger people in your family, what are they looking for? How do they do it? Literally, they can probably show you in 15 minutes, how to post and things like that. But I think it's a necessary evil. I think because of COVID, right, basically the world went virtual. This is from a human experiment perspective, from a work perspective, the entire world went virtual this last year. That's incredible. That is history. And chances are people who were adverse to these social media strategies, chances are now they understand how they're used. Back to my language company, we've been teaching online for about 7 or 8 years to China and with our Chinese partners. So when we needed to pivot, we knew Zoom when we could call the Zoom guy and say, our server's not working. Can you help us out? So we were able to sort of pivot back to that pivot word quicker, right? So if you're averse to these social media stuff and these free things, newspaper ads, there's still people who read newspapers. Figure out where you get your customers from, right? And it might be the local flower shop or the local bakery or the local cafe. There's still value to all of those things. And that's where kind of, I guess, another part of my list would be community outreach, right? Versus networking, right? Creating a community, creating relationships, not just asking people for stuff, right? Networking is you want something from me. Relationship building is I want you to know who I am. I want you to know what I do. And if there's a fit at some point, we'll figure it out. But is there not an immediate thing? So build those relationships in the community.
Well, thank you for that. Another question for you, and this just comes from my personal experiences. We've worked together with the Morning Goals and spending time with different people along the way. It goes to that idea of branding that you brought up. One of the things that I think we see most often is almost inconsistency in the branding process. Not because people don't have an idea of what they want to do, but because, well, they have so many ideas of what they want to do. So what would you recommend as a strategy for us to start building our brand, identifying what our brand is, and kind of making that more concise?
Yeah. Hire me. Just kidding. Just kidding. That was a bad plug for myself. But from a brand, okay, so branding, everybody should write this down. It's your mission. It's your vision. Okay, it's your colors. What colors on a consistent basis you're going to be using. It's your font. It is your like messaging, like how you write, what words you say. I'm writing a children's book, and at the end of every page, the last word is an onomatopoeia. Ouch, boom, bang, right? But it's like it's noticeable, right? It's repetitive. If for those of you who are using things like Instagram, it's the same filter that you're using on a regular basis to create that feeling, right? That feeling. And then lastly, I would say pick 3 words that define your brand, right? So at the Morning Goals, it's simplicity, productivity, and accountability. And anybody who goes to our website or one of our social media platform will probably see one of those 3 words kind of repeat themselves, right? And they'll understand that the colors are not pink and purple. We might have some pink and purple, but the default colors are black and white. So I would say make a little worksheet that sort of outlines these different aspects of the brand. And then there's a culture question, right? Do you want a Google culture where everybody's rolling around on the ground and sleeping on beanbags at work, right? Do you want a Goldman Sachs culture, which everyone's coming to work in a suit? Or do you want something in between? At the Morning Goals, we're pretty casual. So we're more like Google, I would say. But yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's see if I have any other questions.
Last question. Make it
last
good.
question. Oh gosh, no pressure. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of different topics, and say I am about to take the plunge into launching my small business,
Yep.
or maybe I need to kind of revisit what my business looks like externally, how people are perceiving it, and
Yep.
looking at all of these components of marketing.
Yep.
Where should I start, and how should I start?
So all of this stuff, I would say start with your website. Right, your website allows you to write down your ideas, and I'm a firm believer if you don't write things down, it's never going to happen. So write things down, and your website allows you to do that because it captures your ideas, but you're also making them public, which is important, right? It's very important. In that website, tell your story in the about page or in the blog. Tell your story so that other people understand, why are you a baker? Why are you a van lifer? Why are you a children's book author? Right. The third part of that question that I would say is figure out your natural network. Emails are powerful. Email's not going anywhere anytime soon. I know we have WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal and all these other chatting apps, but email is still very effective. And so build out your email list. Go through your LinkedIn, go through your contacts, go through your phone contacts, and see who can help you on your business, and then email them. But then also have a strategy of that email campaign, right? Whether you're telling your story, whether you're offering things to your natural network. And then the other thing is, if you don't know who your clients are already, then figure out who your clients are. That is so important, right? So when I open up a storefront on Massachusetts Avenue in Boston, chances are I'm not praying for somebody to walk in. I know who I want to walk in that front door. I know who my podcast, there's a lot of statistics, because we get some information, who's listening, where they're listening from, et cetera. My podcast is between 30 and 45-year-olds. And those are our primary listens. And so the topics that we should be sort of rolling out is topics that 30 to 45-year-olds are interested about, not, things that may not be related to that group, right? And we can lean young and older in our topics, but we're relating it back to that demographic, right? So know that. And then lastly is write things down. So you don't need a 30-page business plan. You don't need a 30-page marketing plan, but you should have your 3 sheets of paper you should have nearby at all times is your brand, culture, and philosophy on one page. You should have your business plan with simple goals, another page, one year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years out. Where are you driving, this car towards, right? You may not get there, and you might have some detours along the way, and you might have to adjust that 5-year plan, but you're heading that way. And then the last one is your marketing plan. What are you doing on a daily basis for free, on a weekly basis for free, but then also on a regular basis that's paid? Cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So with that, everybody, that is my quick, gritty introduction to modern day marketing, right? So some of you probably thought I was going to get the old intro to marketing book and talk about demographics and stuff like that. You probably already know that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the intentionality of planning different things and the intentionality of putting stuff on paper, but also giving you a quick checklist of, is my website ready? Number 2, am I Googleable? Google yourself. The first thing I did when I met Cody is I Googled him, and he popped up. Number 3, work on your social media platforms, but have a purpose with calls to action, things about yourself, etc. Number 4, if you're going to buy advertisements, know how much and why and what purpose. And then number 5, write out different things, right? Your brand plan, your business plan, and your marketing plan. And all of those things could just be one-pagers, sort of cut and dry, that are flexible, but don't spend days and years on them. I've never met a company who has an updated business plan or a marketing plan. It is a guide that is fluid, that helps you sort of visualize what you're doing. And to Delaney's question earlier, is know your value and your worth. And if you're starting out, you're probably starting low. So start high, and it's easier to give discounts than for you to raise your prices later. So with that, go visit us at www.themorninggoals.com. That's right there, themorninggoals.com. I am a business consultant and a life coach, focusing on entrepreneurs, creatives, and the aspiring. And Cody's my colleague. And Cody, thank you for your time. And those of you on Clubhouse, thank you for your time as well. And I'll see you guys next week at 9:30 Eastern Time on Thursday. Goodbye.
Goodbye.